So, for programs that are currently screening people out one way or another due to substance use, how did they get started in changing that?
It's a really good question. And I wish I had all the magic answers. That would be so much fun. But I do think that it's, I think you've got to have some honest conversations, because if you're screening people out, I kind of want to know where that came from. And so you kind of got to go deep and be able to say and admit, what are your own feelings about people who use substances? What did you learn growing up about substances? And this doesn't make people bad people or like some character flaw. We all have biases. It's when we can actually admit them and talk about them and know what they are that we can check them or get rid of them. So and I think substance use along with mental health stuff goes along with this too, because there can be a lot of misnomer about somebody having a mental health crisis, which may be connected with the substance use, that somehow that makes them more dangerous. There's absolutely no statistical data that shows that somebody with a mental health diagnosis is any more dangerous than anybody else. But so it's our own like internal, what we feel about mental health and what we feel about substances. And I still go back to, if you are either overtly or covertly screening people out on this, you really are missing a huge piece of the population that needs your help. To be able to have a safe place to stay and be supported while they are trying to heal and work through the domestic and sexual violence. And you may be the first smile they've seen in a while. You may be the first nice person they've talked to in a while. But people also who are coming into shelter programs, at least my experience, I'm not going to speak for everybody. My experience has been that most people coming into shelter don't really have any other resources. If they did, they probably wouldn't be coming into a domestic violence shelter. That's nothing bad on shelters. I am so happy we have them. Some are very nice as far as decor and everything else, but it's just, I just don't know many survivors who are like, oh, I want to go to a shelter. I mean, I just don't know that. But often then, so if you're working with primarily people who often don't have many other resources, and that includes financial resources, then you potentially are working with a high percentage of the population that is also, to survive, become used to having to qualify for things. So you are setting up a scenario in which you are already asking people to not be honest and to not be genuine. And we should never expect people to actually be telling us all the truths of their lives. I mean, they don't know us. Why should they just automatically trust us because we're nice people that are advocates? Perfect. Except that's just delusional if we convince ourselves of like, well, why did they lie to me when they came in? Well, why would they tell you the truth? You have to establish that relationship. And not telling the whole truth and telling people what you think they want to hear has kept you safe sometimes. It's protection.
Yes.
So
that's so true. And when I see that self-protection in place, I feel so glad that instinct for self-protection is intact. There's so many kind of healing pieces that we can build on that. And I often think, how many times has someone asked me something and then later on I'm like, oh, I forgot about that, or I didn't think of this. Like in a given moment, I don't know that I even know the whole truth of my life.
Exactly. Yeah, memories are a very odd thing sometimes. Yeah. And when we're working with people who there's those protective factors are up. I think we can all think of people that we've worked with that the protective factor was so strong that it actually was getting in the way of them being able to, or let me flip that, for the advocate to feel that they could actually reach that person. I don't think it's the responsibility of the survivor to reach the advocate. We have to stop that. It's the advocate's responsibility to try and build that partnership and that relationship with the survivor. And I have had many conversations with survivors about, here's what I'm seeing. Please tell me if that's not how you're seeing this. This is how I'm seeing it. And I don't want to assume that you feel the same way about something I do, or that you see it the same way. And so, and what I'm seeing is that because of A, B, and C, it's harder for me than to be able to figure out how I might be able to help you with this. So you're taking the responsibility of your own work. And then again, you get to debrief then with staff and your supervisor and all of that kind of stuff. But the work that you do, you get to take that responsibility. It's an area in which I think because the voluntary services piece of things, right? Where people are afraid. It's like, if I don't make people go to a support group, oh my gosh, no one's going to come. Okay. I don't know how else to say this. It's going to sound rude, and I'm just going to apologize up front. That says, I think, more about your support group than it does the people that might want to attend it. So how do you figure out how to get people to a support group? Are we asking them what it is they would want? Are we asking survivors with us of like, hey, we have this support group, but I'm trying to figure out, I haven't seen you there. Could I ask you to come maybe once? And then maybe we could talk after and you could tell me how that went. The other thing is oh my God, we provide so many services, right? And it's all in our language. What is a support group? Well, that may scare me to death as a survivor. Be like, I don't want to sit in a big circle and hold hands and sing Kumbaya and tell my problems to them. No. I don't like to talk in front of people. No. So how do we market it? How do we make it sound inviting, kind of thing? And then you're going to have people who is just like, no, I'm good. I'm good. And so I also want folks to keep in mind that I totally understand shelter is not long-term permanent housing. Okay, I get it. But why isn't it enough that somebody just needs shelter? Why isn't that just okay? It seems that we've sometimes come to feeling like, oh my gosh, we're not doing a good job if they're not participating in everything we have to offer. But they are participating in safe shelter. So that's a service. So we've got to see shelter as the service, like we do a support group, like we do case management, which again is our language, like we do anything else. Shelter is not like its own, shelter is a service. And so that needs to be a part, I think, of the conversations we also have internally when we're looking at those voluntary services piece of, it's not, you can make an appointment with somebody all day long and they might miss it every time. Are you getting up from your desk and trying to find that person to see how they're doing? Again, it's not the responsibility, I don't think, of the survivor to make sure they're going to the appointments you set up internally. I think that we have to take that responsibility to engage people in different ways. A term that honestly we started calling drive-by case management And it really was. It was for the folks. They didn't want to really officially meet with anybody, but you want to get the information to them. So it's in the hallway as you're crossing. It's like, hey, how you doing? Oh, by the way, remember I can help you with housing. And you're down the hall, but you're getting that information out to people. It just doesn't, because they're not sitting in your office or whatever. The other thing is, if you're paying attention, I think in shelter, you'll also notice people become creatures of habit anyway. So there's always going to be the smoker corner. There's the group that's going to hang over here. There's, just be visible.
Yeah.
Be visible. I mean, it's not about invading space, but it is being visible and letting somebody know that you're there and that you're a person. You are a human being. Yes, you're an advocate. You work there, but yeah, you're there and you're supportive.
Absolutely. I'm reminded of so many people who really the time that they engaged with me, that felt safe enough to engage with me when they were in the TV room.
Yes.
They're watching TV. And so I had to kind of think to myself, like, okay, I'll watch TV with this person because otherwise they're not going to really, it's just not going to be kind of the right space to talk to me. But this other person actually, we're finding a lot of times to connect. So if they ask me to watch TV with them, I'll thank them for the invitation, but kind of wait to see them another time. Right. So I kind of had in my mind, who do I watch TV with? Because it's relationship building, and who maybe doesn't need that.
Yep. I think that whether you're working with somebody that is struggling with substances, whether you're working with somebody who, whatever the challenge might be, it is about the relationship you build with somebody. It also, you have to know you're not going to like everybody, which ultimately means not everybody's going to like you. I know nobody wants to hear that, but it's true. And it's again that checking of yourself, because if anybody that's listening to this, and I want folks to think about that survivor that you've worked with, you just have to pick one that it's like you just still remember their name, that everything about them. You remember that they just were so, I don't know, it's like when they came in, they just listened to every word you said, and they followed through on every resource you gave them. And they just, I don't know, their kids did not run aimlessly up the hallway writing on the walls. And so it's like they just, I don't know, they just seemed to they did everything you're supposed to do, right? And then I want you to think about the person who didn't, and the survivor that challenged every second that they were around, that they asked why to everything, that any suggestion you had, it's like, I've already tried that, it won't work. They were rude. They were angry. They didn't want anything to do with anything, and nothing was ever right. They were the ones that everybody complained about. Now I want you to think about both of them. And now the person that was the easiest to work with comes back to the shelter impaired. What happens? How do you work with them? Versus now the person who is just, when you hear them come down the hall, you're like, please don't need me. Please walk past my office. They come back impaired. What do you do? Asking them to leave shelter might be what happens, as opposed to the person that you've been found so easy to work with. You might be willing to give them another chance. That we need to think about that.
Yes.
Because both people deserve our support. Both people deserve kindness and respect. And I'm not saying that we treat everyone the same. It's not that, but I do believe we give everyone respect. And I do believe that just because this person is easier to talk to, that I let things slide. And so I think that those are the things we just, and it's just that self-reflection. I think we need a lot of self-reflection doing this work.
Absolutely. And it happens more often than I think that we're aware of.
We're human.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to allow ourselves some grace, but we also need to allow others grace as well. But in saying that, that doesn't let us off the hook, because we do need to be aware. And that goes back to those biases that we need to be aware of. I was just having a similar conversation with a coworker around identifying biases. And we've been doing some thinking about some different trainings and things like that, and some different advocate tools and stuff. And we were talking about biases, and it really was, you've got to be able to know yourself. And there's that work around trauma. And I know that a lot of advocates and that express like themselves being triggered by things. Okay, triggers are going to happen. You don't have to do this work, and something's going to trigger you at some point, right? Because we've all just lived. So we have to, I believe, doing this work, though, we have even a larger responsibility to know ourselves that much better. And so when we start talking about things like wellness and that kind of thing, I am not going to tell you exactly what's going to work for you, because I don't know. But when I am working with a survivor, or I think as advocates, we know what some common triggers are. So as an advocate, if I am working with somebody and I've got to be aware, and I start to feel like, what is happening? Why am I getting anxious? Why is this conversation getting to the point where what am I doing? What is it? You've got to be able to then, once that is finished, to step back and be like, what happened in that moment? Were you in the middle of an intake? And when you step back and be like, oh, you know what, that person reminds me of, and that was somebody that hurt you, like when you were a kid or whatever. Okay. You still have to be able to do your job, and you still have to be able to do it well, but you have to be able to take that step back and be able to start to identify those things for yourself, so that you can continue and sustain the work and be good at what you do. And so if you are really struggling with people who have substances, again, what is that? Did you grow up with an alcoholic in your home? I don't know. Is that something, have you yourself struggled with substances, and are you taking a much more rigid kind of path because you were able to get clean and sober? So everybody should be. And even though for a fact that is naive thinking, but is that kind of what's stuck in your head when you're working with people? So it's that self-awareness and recognizing those things.
Mm-hmm. And what I love about this is that it's not about being perfect, not at all. It's about actually embracing ourselves in our full, beautiful, flawed humanity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Having that, it's not even like we just check awareness off the list. It's like, it's a constant reflective practice.
Yes.
That self-knowledge, of that awareness of, touching base with ourselves.
And if you're supervising direct service advocates, please use that self-reflection within your supervision. When there are situations that come up, please talk through those things, as far as like, so tell me what did happen. What worked? What didn't work? What are some things that you might change the next time? And engage the staff you're supervising within those conversations as well, so that they can continue to build on being able to do that also for themselves. Yeah.